Hey students, I'm here because I want to show you how to start adding appendages to your teapots. Appendages could be anything. It could be hands popping out, it could end up being feet, fins, whatever you want to be popping out of the body or the vessel of your teapot. Could be ears, anything really. What I'm going to be showing you how to add are feet. So I've got my vessel sitting over here, and I'm actually going to go ahead and just keep this dampened towel sitting on it because my vessel is actually really leather hard. At this point, it's no longer plastic. It has a little bit of movement possible, but you can hear I have to really kind of force it in order to change the form now at this point because it's starting to get dry. Right now, you can see how I just changed the form. What I want to do is add 2 feet up here on the front so that my teapot doesn't fall like that at the table. So I'm just going to leave it sitting here with this damp towel on it, and I'm going to take 2 pieces of clay that are approximately the same size, and these are going to become my feet. And I'm going to use a technique called pinching and molding, which just means that I'm taking this plastic, moldable, malleable clay, and I'm going to mold them and use my fingers to pinch them into the form that I want. I want these to sort of look like 2 little fins, almost like I'm making a fish that's popping up on his front 2 fins. So I'm just trying to make the basic form. I looked at my drawings in my process journal in order to decide how I want these to look, and now I'm just kind of going off of those. So that helped me visualize. So right now I'm paddling, I'm pinching, I'm molding, and these little guys are going to actually be pretty basic. I want it to kind of taper here like the end of a fin would. I want it to be wider up here and then to get more narrow here as I go. So I'm using my fingers to make it do that. You can see my clay is really nice and plastic. It's not having any issues at all with cracking right now because I got nice fresh clay from the pug mill and then I wedged it really well. Okay, so this is the basic form that I want these to be, and I'm going to have them sitting under my teapot like 2 little fins. Now, if I put them under my teapot now and I tried to connect them right now, I would be connecting leather hard clay to plastic clay. So I'd have to really score and slip them super well. And I'm afraid that what would happen if I connected them now is when I put my teapot on this, it would very slowly squish it. And I don't want that to happen. So what I've done is I've just set them aside and I would let time pass, or I would blow them with a blow dryer and allow them to get not totally leather hard, but a little bit more solid, a little bit more firm, so that my teapot's not going to squish them. And so I've done that already. I've got these 2 here. These are going to be 2 of my feet. And once they're leather hard, you can add texture. Like here, I took this loop tool and I used it in kind of a non-traditional way in order to just create this kind of scaly fin texture. So what I'll do when it's time to connect everything is I'm going to move my teapot here. I'm always working on my bat because the more I move my teapot around, the more vulnerable it becomes. You guys already saw how I kind of changed the form a little bit here. Something had happened when I did that is I got this increased kind of crease right here. And I'm sure you guys remember that from when I was creating this in the first place. And so to take care of that crease that I do not like, I'm actually just going to do a little bit of trimming on the exterior of my pot to smooth that out. And you can see that it's getting nice and smooth. I can still see a little bit of a groove there, but it's much less. And I would eventually, not yet, but just to show you what I will do eventually, is I would eventually very carefully go in and I would just add texture on top of something like that to cover it up. And so that's what this would look like in the end. I'm not going to do the whole thing right now, but that's what it would look like. And now these little pieces are leather hard. I intentionally made them slanted like this so that they would fit onto here when I set it down. But if it's not lined up quite right, there's still, because they're not totally dry yet, there's a little bit of room for me to kind of mold them and change them. These ones I've already made just the way I want them to be. So I'd figure out where I want to place them. These ones I want to place right here. And then ultimately I'd have a lid here, a face here, some fins here, just to kind of help me start visualizing. But I need to attach these now. So as you guys all know, in order to attach, I need to score and slip. So I line up where I want these, and then I'm going to make some really basic marks here on the vessel of where these come into contact with this. So that's where they come into contact. You can see the light lines that I made there and there. And I'm going to score in both of these areas, just using a needle tool. I make hatch marks going one way, and then I make hatch marks going the other way. And I'm going to do that to the other foot. And then where else would I need to score other than here and here? That's right, I need to score here. So you need to score both sides. So I'm scoring the feet, and I'm scoring where the feet are going to make contact with the vessel. So I'm scoring both of these. You can see my score marks are deep enough so that you can really see them, so that the slip is really going to be able to get down in there. And then I've got my slip here. For those of you who don't remember, you can get your slip out of the big slip bucket, or you can take small pieces of bone dry clay and you can create your own slip. So I'm patting the slip into my score marks until I cannot see any more score marks. And then I would do the same thing here. I would just pat the slip in. I'm not trying to rub my score marks away. The idea is not to make them go away. The idea is to fill them with slip so that the slip gets into the score marks here on the vessel. The slip gets into the score marks on the foot. And then when the slip starts drying and becoming leather hard like the rest of the clay, they lock together because there's slip in these little trenches, there's slip in these little trenches, and then they're going to stick. So now I'm just going to firmly squish this together. And then I'm going to press the whole thing kind of into the form I want, making sure that the teapot is where I want it. I could push this up like this right now. Right now there is slip squishing out of here. I'm going to make the teeniest little reinforcement coil, just the way we did before when we put our two pinch pots together. And I'm going to put that reinforcement coil here. And then I'm going to smooth it out so that the foot seamlessly connects to the vessel. And you can see, hopefully, how this one still looks pretty messy over here, whereas this one looks smoothed out now. I am going to have to go in and redo some of my texture on this front part that's really visible, but this middle area in here, like kind of between his legs where I wouldn't have been able to get the texture to begin with. I mean, I would only be able to get it when I began. I wouldn't be able to go in with the tool now and create texture there. I'm glad it's already there. Even though I'm going to have to redo some of this texture, I'm okay with that. So right now, my little animal that I ultimately want to end up looking like a fish, propped up on his fins, is starting to take form. Now, one thing that I'm worried about still is this space right here and the legs being pressed too flat by the rest of the vessel. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to make sure my fin form is just the way I want it, because it's not totally leather hard. It's pretty firm, but it's not as leather hard as it could be. So I'm just going to go in, kind of remold and redefine it as I need to. And then I'm going to take some dried newspaper and I'm going to put it back in here so that when this is sitting there, there is a little bit of support provided for my clay that isn't as dry yet. I'm also going to just put the teeniest little bit kind of here between his two fins to help with support. And that's going to keep my legs from just collapsing under the weight of this guy. And then I would wrap this up with my damp towels, and it would be ready to go for next class. I'm keeping my little lid here in case I decide to use that later. So you could add anything this way. You could add feet, you could add fins. If you were to add a fin, like up here for instance, and you wanted it to look like he was kind of swimming or almost like this was a wing flapping, you could do that. You just have to score and slip it. If you started feeling like something like this was going to fall off, let's say you attached this and you were afraid it was going to fall off, after you score and slip it, you can use a piece of clay underneath, or you can and you can support it kind of like this to keep it from falling, or if it's lower down like this, you can just use dried newspapers under it like that to keep it from falling. So hopefully this helps you continue to add feet and details to your teapot.